Hey everyone, I'm Sean. Welcome to the Inside Stuff. Our mission and purpose is very simple. We're here to comb through all of the financial information that's out there online and distill it down to the top 5 articles that you need to be paying attention to right now this week that could directly affect you and your personal economy. Before I forget, if you want a copy of everything that we're talking about today, go to theinsidestuff.org and you can download a free copy of all of these articles and everything that we're discussing. That's theinsidestuff.org. So go there now and download everything that we have. While you're there, you might want to check out also The Inside Circle. Now, The Inside Circle is a new project that we're launching. And get this, we're looking for the best of the best nationwide who want to work the way that we like to work. What that looks like is you get access to some of the top deals that are available right now that even the brightest money managers in Wall Street don't have a clue about. This is truly an exclusive group. And so when you go there, fill out the information. Who knows, you may just be the right person to come along for the ride. Okay, the first article we're going to go through is from the Mises Institute. Now, Mises was an Austrian economist. There's 2 different schools of thought. There's Austrian economics and there's Keynesian economics. John Maynard Keynes wrote his General Theory of Economics, and since 1944, we've been under that system of Keynesianism, which is based on the availability of credit. In other words, John Maynard Keynes thought that the best way, the most effective way to get out of a recession was to make money easily available to the masses through loans. The problem is that, and he addressed this in his General Theory of Economics, is that the check and balance for that system is interest rates. If you give away free money and people are spending that money, it increases the cost of those goods and services that they're spending the money on. But if interest rates rise and it makes it more difficult to borrow money, then that cools down the prices because people stop borrowing money to spend. Think about credit card debt, student loan debt, car loan debt, home loan debt, general consumer debt. If it's made available at 0% interest, you'd do it all day long. Free money is free money. Why wouldn't you take that? But Austrian economics teaches us something different. Their belief system is that all wealth is created through production, not through credit. You see, Keynesianism won in 1944, and we've been under that system since then, which is a horrible, horrible tragedy. It's a travesty, really, because Austrian economics is real, true economics. It's based on growth and production. What's interesting is Rand Paul is a huge Austrian economist. So I love this article. It says, Rand Paul echoes Mises on money. Senator Rand Paul published an op-ed piece in Business Insider this past Sunday attacking the easy money policy of Bernanke and Yellen and the Federal Reserve, continuing his call for a full audit of the central bank. I'm blown away that the central bank has never been audited before. How do we know what's on their balance sheet? And how do we know how much of that is off balance sheet or in the shadow banking system? He criticized Senator Ted Cruz's recent endorsement of the view of the Fed that the Fed was guilty of being too tight with their monetary policy during the financial crisis. In other words, Ted Cruz believed that the Fed should have printed even more money than $4 trillion to bail out the banks. Senator Paul demonstrates a sound Austrian understanding of how an expansion of money supply benefits those who first receive the new funds at the expense of you and I and everyone else. The reason for this is simple, he says. Big banks and corporations and government entities who receive the Fed's newly created money long before anyone else, they build up the prices of goods and services before the rest of us can even get a chance to purchase them. What happens is it just drives up the price of goods and services. Think about it this way. Again, I'll use the analogy of gold and silver. In 1950, it used to cost $2 silver to fill up your car with gas. $2 to fill up your entire car with gas. And they had huge tanks back then in the 50s in those giant cars, right? Well, today, the price of silver is hovering right around anywhere from 15 to 20 bucks, depending on the markup that you have to pay to get the coin, right? So if you put 2 coins together, $2 2 silver dollars together, that's roughly anywhere from $30 to $50. Well, how much does it cost to fill up your car with gas today? Right around 30 to 50 bucks, depending on the size of your car. So the price of oil and gas has never changed, but the problem we have is that they're printing fake money. They're printing paper dollars. And the more they print those paper dollars, the more paper dollars it takes to fill up the exact same size tank of gas. Make sense? So it's not the price of the gas that's going up, or the price of the eggs or the bread or the milk at the grocery store that's going up. It's just taking more paper dollars to pay for the same amount. On to the next one. This is an interesting blog article. It's from the Times of India. It's in the tech section of the Times of India. The title of the article says, "Tech behind Bitcoin can help check counterfeiting." In other words, it's gotten so easy to counterfeit checks that Bitcoin may be the solution. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but there's been a huge spike in Bitcoin recently. Now, why is that? It's coming from India and China primarily. They're not putting their money into gold and silver. Why? Because the price of gold and silver has artificially been kept low by the central bankers of the world. You know, they're buying the physical gold and silver as quickly as they can, and then they're shorting the paper stock gold and silver to drive the spot price of gold and silver down so that they can buy more of it at a cheaper price. Those who hold the gold, the physical gold, will rule the world. They will be the wealthiest people in the world. The reason that people are flooding into Bitcoin is because they just don't know what else to do. I mean, think about the psychology of events here globally. You've got central bankers and central government control that is completely off the charts, out of control at this point. Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows how to plan their retirement or their life savings around all this chaos and confusion and all this manipulation. And so they're fleeing into something called Bitcoin because they don't know what else to do. It's that simple. It's kind of a scary situation. Okay, the next article is from Zero Hedge, and it's entitled, "The Oregon Standoff. Is this an isolated event or a sign of things to come?" Now, my good friend Kyle Bass talked about this a long time ago, back in 2010. And when he was asked what the end game looks like, one of the key points that he hit on was that he said we're going to see more and more social unrest, just like is happening over in Europe. If you think about Egypt and Asia and Europe, they're having riots on the street in Turkey, in Greece, over in Egypt, because people are starving to death over there because their currency has collapsed so badly in those countries. All right. So Kyle told everybody, he said, what the first signs you'll see are social unrest, and even up to and including the complete tearing of the social fabric of our country. So we're expecting to see more and more events like this up in Oregon, this standoff between federal prosecutors and federal government officials and normal citizens. You see, what happened up in Oregon is not an isolated incident. What happened up in Oregon was complete theft by our government. A lot of people out there are talking about how illegal and unconstitutional this is for the government to come in and just steal your land and call it a federal wildlife refuge. You know, they're putting a name on it. They're saying it's protected land, but this land has been owned for generations. So what are people to do? I would do the same thing if I were in their spot. I would stand up and rise up against the government. Now, the good news to you is you don't have to be afraid to do that, because I've had high-level conversations, face-to-face conversations with some of the top-tier people in the military, and I asked them point blank, when the shit hits the fan and they come after our guns and our gold, what are we supposed to do? And the response I got from these top-tier military officials was, let them try. When I asked, whose side are you going to be on? Are you going to be on the government side or the citizen side? They said, we will stand with the citizens every time. They've taken an oath to protect and uphold the Constitution of the United States and the citizens of our country, not our government. Okay? So don't be alarmist. Don't be afraid. Don't worry about it. Just protect yourself and your own personal economy. Here's a great article from our friends at Harvest. Remember, Harvest Exchange is a private group of hedge fund managers and top-tier money managers that give their insight and advice. I was lucky enough to be able to join this group of people. This article says, why does the majority of capital go to the big funds? An interesting perspective, okay? Now, everybody knows about Blackstone and Carlyle and Bridgewaters of the world, these huge hedge funds, and most of the capital is flooding into those hedge funds. Why is that? Let's take it from an entirely different perspective, though. Here's what Kyle Dunn says on Harvest Exchange. He says it simply relates to a breakdown in communication. Society has changed how it receives and processes information. Regardless of whether you're a teenager or a chief investment officer, you handle information differently than you did 20 years ago. The alternatives industry, meaning physical assets, not paper assets on some exchange somewhere or in the stock market, physical assets, real deals that produce real income and real returns, not artificially inflated stock prices. That industry has not evolved. It's stuck in the land of PowerPoint decks and the traditional model of forming relationships. All right, that's the problem, is that these huge funds have an unlimited amount of money to put into their marketing material. And so the money is flooding into those large hedge funds because they've got the money to market to you and to everyone else out there. I'm here to tell you there's a better way of going about doing it where you don't have to have the $5 million minimum investment with the Blackstones and the Carlyles, and you don't have to pay the 2% management fee and the 20% profit that goes to those funds. You can do it for no fees and you keep the profits. We have a way of doing that. So if you're interested in learning about those private deals that I'm involved in, go to theinsidestuff.org and click on the Inside Circle tab. If you click on the Inside Circle tab, register and get involved, and we can start talking about the deals that I'm involved with. All right, the last one I'm going to show you is, again, from Harvest Exchange, and it's just real simple. It says it's time for a new game plan in 2016. And there are a couple of there's a whole white paper here that you can read if you want to. Everything that we've done so far in the market has increased risk and volatility. And we've now entered a extreme fear zone is what they're calling it. So investors in the market who have their wealth in 401ks, IRAs, and mutual funds are at an all-time high extreme fear zone. And they go on to say that over 42% of the global stock universe is headed in a downturn. 42% of all the stocks out there are going to lose money in the very near future. How much of your wealth is tied up in the stock market in 401ks, IRAs, and mutual funds? Did you know that you don't have to keep it in the market, that you can jailbreak those funds without penalty and without tax consequence and have checkbook access and control over that money so that you can invest in some of these deals that we're doing with the Inside Circle? All right. If you're interested in learning more about that, get involved. Go to theinsidestuff.org, click on the Inside Circle tab, and sign up right now to become a part of this new group. Now, this is going to be an exclusive group, and we're gonna keep it small. All right, that's it for this week. I look forward to talking to you next week.